Good evening, good morning, or good afternoon, depending on when you are watching this week's episode of After Sunday. The Lord still speaks. Look, we understand that you go to church on Sunday. Some of you have your midweek Bible study on Tuesday or Wednesday, but we know that sometimes you need just a extra dose of something to get you over the hump. So, this is why after Sunday, the Lord Still Speaks was created. It is presented by the social Maximus network. Do me a favor and head over to our YouTube channel and subscribe to the social Maximus network right now and hit that notification button so you can be alerted every time we have a new episode or something great coming up on YouTube. I have a special guest this evening, and I met this young lady at a Christmas gala, and she came up to me and my wife at the end of the gala. I hope she don't mind me sharing it. She says, "Look, I just want to know how I can serve." You know, and before I even get into that, a lot of times people just come up to you and run up to you and they want something from you. But she says, "How can I serve?" And we exchange information. And I want to say right after the holidays, we connected. And it was like we've known each other for many, many years. I actually went into her salon one day um, on assignment with another brother. And, we did some ministry together. Didn't realize we were going to be doing ministry, but I'm just honored to have this young lady on tonight's episode. Her name is Miss Gail Estella. I want everyone to welcome my guest tonight, the Mrs. Gail Estella. Gail, how you doing this evening?
I am doing very well this evening. Thank you for having me. I'm so elated. I'm so excited. A little nervous, but I'm very, very excited to be here with you.
Well, look, you're in good hands. We're going to take good care of you. Gail, so tell me a little bit. I know you are a stylist, I know you are a domestic abuse survivor. We're going to get into that. You have overcame some things in life yourself. But tell the audience, just give them a little bit of who Gail Estella is. I know you're located in Rock Hill, South Carolina. That's correct?
Yes, I'm located in Rock Hill, South Carolina. My name is Gail Wright. I'm branded under the name of Gail Estella. I am an educator, salon owner, survival speaker, and the founder of Gail Estella Presents the Ball Bold and Beautiful. And our mission is to empower, uplift, and strengthen women to know that they are beautiful with or without hair. I am a 30-year domestic violence survivor, and I always like to say I went from being a victim to a survivor, and now I'm an advocate of of domestic violence. I am also in January 22nd, 2023. I celebrated 30 years of sobriety.
Wow.
So that's a part of me, and with the things that I've gone through, a lot of things that I've gone through for so long, the enemy held me in a place, or I allowed the enemy to hold me in a place of shame and embarrassment. But this year was the year that God said, it's time to tell my story. It's time to help other women because there's so many other women that are suffering in silence. So I just want to be that person to serve and to help someone else be set free from domestic violence and substance abuse.
I love it. So let's talk about being a survivor for a second. Because once you overcome something, it is your obligation to pull someone else out. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. It is.
So,
And I think a lot of times the obligation comes to some sooner than it comes for others because, like I say, with me being a cosmetologist and being a servant of the community, I held myself in this area of shame because I didn't know what people would think about me or how they would feel about me. So it was really embarrassing. And then on top of that, I had to get to a place that I was able to forgive myself. Because a lot of times we go through things in life, but we have to be able to forgive ourselves and learn to love ourselves, accept ourselves, and just thank God for the things that He brought us through and be okay with that. And it took me 30 years. This, of course, some people knew my story, people that were close to me, or people that I felt needed to know my story. But for me, just to publicize my story to the masses, I wasn't at a point that I was ready to do that. But now I am.
So would you say it was important for you to still take that time for yourself to truly heal?
Yes, yes, yes. Because I like to tell my story going back to an 11-year-old little girl. And I can remember going to Farewell Middle School for the very first time. And I saw at recess, I saw these three girls sitting on a hill. These young ladies or these girls, they were light complected, they had long hair, and they had boyfriends. And this was the very first time that I felt myself comparing myself to another person. I felt my esteem dropping. I felt ugly, because I looked at them and I equated being light complected, having the long hair, and having a boyfriend. I equated that with being pretty. I was light complected, but I didn't have the long hair. I didn't have the boyfriend. And so I like to talk about insecurities because those insecurities were the things that led me to the places that I went. I think if my self esteem might have been different, if I felt better about myself, things might have been differently. But insecurities can take us places that we never thought we would go. And because of my insecurities and wanted to have the boyfriend, wanted to be accepted, I did, and I allowed things to happen to myself and for myself that I shouldn't have allowed to happen.
That's powerful that you even acknowledge that, because some people still will try to point the finger and blame others. So would you say it's important to take accountability for yourself first, Gail?
Yes, yes, because even when I talk about domestic violence, they refer to the person that's the doing the abusing as the abuser, and they refer to the person that's receiving the abuse as the victim.
Yes.
And we are victims. So I don't want to minimize that at all. But I do feel at some point in time, and that's anything in life, we do have to take accountability. We have to look at ourselves. And as far as being the victim, I'm allowing it to happen. Each time that I went back, that was giving him permission to abuse me again, because if I didn't go back, he couldn't abuse me. So a lot of times we give our power away. And it gets to a point that we're tired of giving our power away, or we know this abuse isn't going to stop, or whatever the reasons are that make people leave. But yes, we do have to be accountable for ourselves in a lot of situations in our life. And so for me, I know most of the things that happened to me in my life was because of my own choices.
Well, even as a business owner, I mean, you already got it together. You have your salon, you have employees, you're doing great things in the community, but you're still saying, I got to give of myself to others and share my story. I want to commend you, Gail, because a lot of people, they'll sit high and look down at others and won't give of themselves. Why now do you feel like it's so important that I must share my story now? Even though I have a successful business, even though things for me is going well in one area of my life, but now I want to peel the layer back and share. Why now, Gail?
It was a yearning. It began to be a yearning in my spirit, and that unsettling feeling that was in my spirit, that God was like, okay, I've given you time, but now it's time for others to see what I can do. And I don't want another little 11-year-old girl to feel the same way that I felt. I don't want another woman to stay in an abusive relationship longer than she has to. And usually addiction and abuse go hands in hand, go hand in hand. And I don't want another person to fall victim of substance abuse because of the addiction, because of not feeling good about themselves. So they turn to drugs, alcohol, And a lot of times we look at addictions as drug and alcohol. We can be addicted to toxic relationships. We can be addicted to pornography, gluttony, eating too much, lying, stealing, gambling, shopping too much, lying. There's so many forms of addiction, but when anything begins to take over and have so much power over your life and allows your life to become unmanageable, then it's time to look at where this is taking you. And that's all of this is what I had to do. I just had to look at myself because, I went to treatment 3 years before I got clean. So I went to treatment for 30 days before I got clean. Now I continue to use, but one thing I didn't do, I never stopped going to Narcotics Anonymous meetings. I hadn't given my life to God at this time. I had been baptized, but I haven't given my life to God. It's my life. Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior at this time. So he kept me, through all of this. And I can still remember the last time I used, and I can remember the first time that I crossed that thin line of, to addiction. And I keep these things close to me here and here. And every decision I make that decision based on that because I'm not that person to think that I'm too big or I've been clean too long to go back to using. I
Yeah,
still give my addiction respect. I still
that's
feel
good.
it's bigger than me. So I make those choices on a daily basis of people, places, and things, where I go, what I do, how I do it, because I know that it can just take one thing and I'm back. So I'm very, very careful with myself and my addiction.
That's good. I love it. So let's talk about what you do. You said something earlier when I was doing the introduction about your foundation, what you do for women with short hair. Can you go into that a little bit?
Okay, so yes, Gail Estella presents the Ball Bold and Beautiful. And that and everything stemmed from that little 11-year-old girl with insecurities because I had short hair. I thought I wasn't beautiful. And I can remember I grew long hair. I grew locks. My locks were at my shoulders. And I can remember being at work one night, looking at myself in the mirror, and I just felt so tired and I felt so drained. And I just began to cut my locks, one lock at a time. And as I began to cut, I just began to feel freer and freer
Wow.
and freer. And I cut all my hair off and I looked at myself in the mirror and I still felt the same way. So this was the epiphany for me to know that it wasn't what's going on the outside. It's what's going on in the inside that causes us to react the way we do, make the choices that we do. And but I began to feel freer. I began to like myself a little bit more. I began to look at myself in a different way. And then I allowed God to start working on me. By this time I had given my life to God. By this time, I had my daughter. And I always like to go back to say these things that I feel good. I feel like God brought me through the things that He brought me through, the addiction, the domestic violence, because with each time that He delivered me, I grew closer to Him. My relationship grew more. My faith in Him grew more. My love for Him grew more. And so when it was time for God to give me a daughter, He gave me my daughter at the age of 35. I had been clean for 3 years then, but He knew that she was going to be a special child. My daughter was diagnosed with brain cancer at the age of 13. So we
Wow.
had to go through her illness, but I needed to know God so she would know God. She had to see me having a relationship with God so she could form a relationship with God. She had to see me trusting God so she would know how to trust God throughout her illness. And so I think all of those things and my daughter, God kept her, free from cancer for 8 years, and she ended up passing from another illness, but I didn't use. And I always thought that if there was anything that was going to cost me to use, it would be the loss of my daughter. But I didn't. God kept me clean through that. And so all of these things with the drug addiction, the the domestic violence, the loss of my daughter, these things began to propel me to love myself more. I took time out for myself. I went back to school. I didn't enter a relationship until 10 years later. I stayed out of a relationship for 10 years. And I got to know myself. And then going back to the ball, bold, and beautiful, still helping women because there's so many women that are suffering in silence. There's so many women and young girls that don't have long hair. Their hair is short. There's so many women that are diagnosed with alopecia, cancer, radiation treatments, chemotherapy treatments that causes them to lose their hair. And a lot of women, we've been taught that our hair is our glory. Don't cut your hair. Long hair makes you pretty. And so we have this innately inside of us, and we feel like we need our hair. So, like I said, our mission is to empower, uplift, and strengthen women to know that they're beautiful with or without hair. And I just want women to know that you can still be pretty. You can still be attractive. You can still be sexy, if it's okay for me to say that on this
Absolutely.
broadcast. You can
Absolutely.
still be all of these things with short hair. I feel better about myself now than I've ever felt about myself. I like looking at myself. You can see me. I'm not hiding under anything. And so that was the reason for Gail Estella Presents the Ball Bowling Beautiful.
That's awesome. So my mother, I remember she was diagnosed with alopecia, and she had bald head, and she was very insecure at times, and she would wear the wigs and different things. And my father would want to pick out certain wigs for her because he was a fan of her having the long hair. But it was some days I never forget. I would pick her up, Miss Gail, and she would be like, "I'm just being free today." She wouldn't have that wig on. She just walk out the house looking. And sometimes I kind of cringe. I'm like, "Mama, you know you don't have a wig on," but she was comfortable in her skin. So I love
Mm-hmm.
it. I love it. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk
Mm-hmm.
about how people can contact you because you're doing a great work in the city, in the state, in the region. And I just want people to get connected with you. I know you're on Facebook as Gail, Gail Estella. Estella. Where else can they find you, or how else can people contact you, Miss Gail?
Well, I'm on Facebook as Gail Estella. I'm on AG Gail Estella _. I'm also on Gail Estella as I'm on Facebook as Gail Estella Hair Studio, IG Gail Estella Hair Studio, and TikTok, the Ball Bowling Beautiful, and also IG the Ball Bowling Beautiful.
I love it. I
Yes.
love it.
And I'm continuing, because I have events coming up because we know we have the prom coming and we have prom is coming, spring break, kids are graduating, and there's going to be a lot of abuse going on at these situations, and there's going to be a lot of drinking and abusive drugs. So I am getting ready to do a master class on teen dating violence, just to be recognition and to give the signs for parents to look at or look for in their children, or even for teenage girls that may not realize, am I in an abusive relationship? Because a lot of women have called and asked me, Miss Gail, am I in an abusive relationship? And they proceed to tell me what's going on, because a lot of times when we think about domestic violence, we think about the physicality of it.
Mm.
But there's so many other forms of domestic violence. We have verbal, we have emotional. Stalking is big right now. These phones, texting, sexting, financial, intimidation, control. There's so many forms of domestic violence. It's just not hitting. That's pretty much the last thing that happens. The first thing is control or intimidation, emotional. Those things happen well before a person, hits you physically or
We can
physically
do a
hit you.
show all about that. Do you have a date for the mastermind, Gail?
It's in the process.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm
Okay.
gathering my content now.
That's fine.
Yes.
That's awesome. Well,
Mhm.
as soon as you get it, definitely let me know. And I'll definitely share it and we'll get it out to the people because this is definitely needed in the community. Gail also does Facebook Lives, guys. You got to go to her Facebook page because she brings on impactful, influential people, and she empowers, and she talks about domestic violence, and she talks about signs, and she talks about all of these things. So there are ways to continue to follow her, and I'm going to definitely follow you on IG and TikTok as well, Gail. I didn't even realize you were on all those platforms, but I
My
love it. I
TikTok is
love it.
very weak right now.
That's okay. Look, that's why we're gonna help each other. We're gonna help each other build things up. Look, it takes a village. Listen. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you. You are listening to Gail Estella. I'm your host, Donald Lee with D Lee Ministries. This is the Social Maximus presenting After Sunday. The Lord Still Speaks. I'm telling you, you need to subscribe to this YouTube channel, the Social Maximus, because every time we drop an episode, every time we bring on experts in the field like Gail and like other guests, you need to look at these episodes. They're not that long. They're less than 25 minutes. You can watch them on your jog in the morning. You can listen to them on your lunch break. So I am just honored to host After Sunday, The Lord Still Speaks, presented by the Social Maximus Network. I'm telling you, Gail, give the audience some final words, because I'm telling you, you are so full of knowledge and wisdom, and I just need for them to just hear something impactful to take away, because I believe someone could be on their last leg tonight. Someone could be in that relationship tonight. Someone could be struggling with addiction tonight. Can you just give them an encouraging word, Gail?
I can. And first, I want to tell you thank you for having me. And this has been very good. And thank you for doing what you're doing in the community as well, because it is very needed. And I think my final words, a couple of things I can say for those of you that are in a domestic violence relationship. Own up to the fact that you're in a domestic violence relationship. And I remember this lady telling me, you don't have to love a person to be with them. You can love them from afar. And I always want to tell people, regardless if it's domestic violence or substance abuse, just to close your eyes and envision yourself where you want to be. Envision yourself where you want to be and who you want to be. And just know that you are capable of achieving to become that person. And also, by leaving a domestic violence relationship, the life you save may be your own.
That's good. The life you
Mhm.
save may be your own. Because, and I don't want to get too deep into this, there are typically two people that lose their life. It's the victim and the abuser, if
Mhm.
something like that does happen.
Mhm.
So they're two tragedies. And thank you. Please follow Gail Estella on all platforms. She said her TikTok a little weak, but we gonna blow it up. Go to Facebook, go to IG. Miss Gail is there. I'm telling you, we're gonna drop the links as well. You have watched another episode of After Sunday, The Lord Still Speaks, presented by the Social Maximus Network. I'm your boy, Donald Lee with D Lee Ministries, a ministry of hope, a ministry of power, a ministry of truth. And do me a favor as we close, and I close with this same statement every week. I want you to do three things. I want you to love God. I want you to love others. But most importantly, I want you to love yourself. And that
That's
might
good.
be leave that relationship. That might be pick up the phone and get some help for your addiction. Loving yourself is going to be the most important thing that you can do. God bless you. We love you. Until the next episode, this is Donald Lee with D Lee Ministries from After Sunday, and we are out.
Hey, good people, it's your man Shannon Casino. Thank you for clicking the link and joining us on another episode of After Sunday, brought to you by the Social Maximus Network. Make sure you guys subscribe and click the notification bell. Every week on Thursday night, we'll be bringing you new episodes of After Sunday. We'll have new guests and new topics every week. Make sure you guys tune in. I see you.
Ugly. What?
Don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that. You are so pretty. When you look at yourself, you supposed to say, I'm so pretty. You are so pretty. Do you hear me? You got the prettiest little dimples. You are too cute. Oh. Leah. Baby girl. You are so pretty. You are like, you have this beautiful chocolate skin. Like, you are just so gorgeous. You got these dimples. No, you're not gonna cry. You are a beautiful little girl, and you are pretty. You are the prettiest girl in your class. Boom. Tell them straight up. When you go to school tomorrow, you got your hair done. You're gonna be like, oh, look at my hair. Oh, look at my shoes. Look at my clothes, baby girl. You are beautiful. Black is beautiful. And if don't nobody ever tell you, I will tell you, you are gorgeous. You are so pretty. And you're going to grow up and you're going to be everything that you can be. You're going to be the greatest nail tech, the greatest beautician, the greatest lawyer, the greatest doctor, the greatest teacher, whatever you want to be, the greatest speaker, the greatest entrepreneur, whatever. What you want to be? What you want to be when you get older?
Oh, the teacher.
You want to be? Your teacher mean to you? So guess what? When you become a teacher, you don't be mean. You be a nice teacher. You be